It is among one of the biggest questions ever posed by humanity. Are we alone in the universe? Well, we may be getting closer to an answer. Lawmakers from the House Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets demanded more transparency from the government on unidentified anomalous phenomena and immunity for whistleblowers amid claims of billions of dollars being spent annually on secret UAP programs. So what new nuggets of information are fueling this push for full transparency? Let's ask someone who was at that news conference on Capitol Hill, independent investigative journalist and New York Times bestselling author of UFOs, Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record, Leslie Kean. Leslie has been following this story for many, many years. Leslie, former Air Force intelligence officer and UAP whistleblower David Grush gave the intel community an earful at that presser this week. Watch this.
For decades, unknown objects have freely operated in restricted airspace in large metropolitan areas and critical infrastructure, and the agencies responsible for securing the homeland cannot adequately defend against it. Many of the president's team has been kept in the dark by high-ego, politically appointed actors, both because of incompetence and malicious intent, has subverted the president's order on this issue.
Leslie, you broke David's story back in 2023. Do you think the president knows the truth, or other presidents have known the truth and it's just being kept from them by what we call the deep state?
I mean, that's a great question. It depends, of course, on what you consider to be the truth, or what you're actually referring to. But I do know that presidents have been briefed on this, including President Trump. I don't know to what extent he's been given, absolutely every bit of information that would give him the full picture, but I know he's had some kind of briefing on it, and he's also been very committed to getting more transparency by releasing these troves, these documents that he's been doing. So he's committed to providing more information to the public, that's for sure.
Here's one of the most stunning claims from David Grush after a reporter asked him what the U.S. government knows about the types of alien life it has encountered.
I certainly don't have the compendium. It's a continuum from corporeal, bipedal type life to, what I would consider like sentient plasmoid life. But there are several that the U.S. government is aware of.
Leslie, so much more has been coming out recently. What else are the whistleblowers saying about, at least from their perspective, what we actually know?
I mean, in general, Tom, they tend to confirm what David Grush said, in 2023. He was the first one to come forward. And a big issue for them is this crash retrieval program. The fact that there is a legacy program that's been in existence for decades and that they apparently have retrieved alien technology, or technology that's not made by humans. And associated with that, there are biological, remains or bits thereof that have also been retrieved. And this is something that many, many others have talked about besides David Grush, some of them off the record to members of Congress, some of them publicly under oath before Congress. But I think that's one of the key points that they're making. If there is hard evidence for the fact, or the possible fact, that we are not alone, they want to provide this evidence to the American people. And it's deeply classified. So there's a battle to try to release some of it and get the declassification restrictions removed so that the public can know more.
Now, Leslie, proponents for UAP transparency argue the existence of extraterrestrial life could, in sort of like a Star Trek sort of way, could unite humanity, could be a very positive thing for humanity. Critics, however, say that some of these revelations could be devastating to societal structures and belief systems and present even national security risks. How do you square that circle? Because there are credible arguments to be made that we should know this information, but there are also credible arguments that maybe humanity isn't quite ready to process all of this.
I mean, that's a great question, Tom. And as you said, the arguments go from the full gamut, from the let's keep all of it out of the public, let's tell them everything. And then there's more of a middle path. And I think that if we do know that we are not alone in the universe, that's a matter of science. It's not a political secret that should be held from the members of our civilization, right? I mean, but on the other hand, I think it's how you go about releasing that and what evidence you provide. And that's why I'm thinking that focus on the biological evidence is really the way to go, because we have to protect the technology. We cannot let our adversaries get access to that technology. But biology is a whole different matter. It's not a national security issue. And fundamentally, regardless of whatever kind of shocks might come from this, I believe that the people on this planet have a right to know if it has been scientifically discovered that we are not alone.
Leslie, exit question for you very, very quickly. You've
Okay.
seen so much of this data. What is the most, let's put a button on it, what's the most compelling evidence that you've seen so far?
I would say the combination of, so first of all, there's hundreds of government documents that have been released through the Freedom of Information Act in the 70s. If you just look at those, it's clear that we're dealing with something unexplained and very remarkable. The fact that it's gone back all the way to the 50s and 40s, the descriptions have not changed of what people are seeing.
Yeah.
Very credible people. So, you know, we didn't have, human beings were not able to create this kind of technology in the 50s and 60s. I don't think anyone can argue with that. So the consistency is very important, and the high level of witnesses and whistleblowers who are talking about it and bringing us information, all of that. And I've been looking at it for a long time. So.
Investigative journalist Leslie Kean, thank you so much. It does seem like you're making some progress. Please keep us up to date, okay?
Thank you so much for having me, Tom.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.